There have certainly been bumps in the road for the 2024 Ohio State Buckeyes, but especially during this postseason, they have been able to overcome said bumps in said road. But now just one obstacle remains between the Buckeyes and a national championship. Those pesky Fighting Irish of the University of Notre Dame. Can the Buckeyes overcome one final obstacle and bring home their first national championship in 10 years?
From LA to Piscataway, all Big Ten all year long. This is Big Ten 10.
This is it, folks. The last preview and prediction of the season. It seems like just yesterday I was previewing and predicting North Carolina and Minnesota to kick off this season. It seems like just yesterday the previews of all 18 Big Ten teams were hitting the channel and hitting the podcast feeds. But, man, here we are. It was the longest season in college football history, but it also seemed like the shortest season in college football history because this season always kept us on our toes, and this season always kept us interested. National championship game, Atlanta, Georgia. The number 8 seed Ohio State Buckeyes. They are an 8.5-point favorite over the number 7 seed Notre Dame Fighting Irish. This one's got an over-under game total of 45.5. Monday night, 7:30 p.m. Eastern on the mothership. Really, the first thought that comes into my mind when I start to think about this game and I kind of look at both rosters and what I've seen from both teams this season, I'm like, Ohio State is a lot more talented than Notre Dame. On paper, game not played on paper, it's played on grass. On paper, you can see why the spread is what it is. On paper, Ohio State should win this one by a couple of scores when you compare the talent on each one of these teams and really the status of both the Fighting Irish and the Buckeyes. But here's what Notre Dame wants to do that Nebraska, Michigan, Texas to a certain extent were able to do against Ohio State. Rock fight. Rock fight. Notre Dame wants to drag Ohio State down into the mud. Look at how Notre Dame has played this season. They've played tough, physical, disciplined type of football. You got to think, I was listening to Joel Klatt in his weekly segment with Colin Cowherd. He was saying, hey, Notre Dame's been mostly a man coverage team this season. More on that in just a minute. But if Notre Dame is smart and they look back at that Texas tape and they look back when teams have had success against the Ohio State Buckeyes, they've been playing zone coverage, they've been playing two high safeties, they've been keeping everything in front of them because when you play Ohio State, things, just ask the Oregon Ducks January 1st in the Rose Bowl. Things get out of hand. Ask Tennessee in that first college football playoff game as well. Things get really out of hand when Ohio State is able to flex their explosiveness and flex that muscle down the field. When Ohio State is able to create that lead and able to create that cushion, they can win this thing running away. And I certainly think there's a possibility that the Ohio State Buckeyes could, not saying they will, but could do that in this football game. Notre Dame wants to play an ugly game. Ohio State. Okay, Ryan Day, I don't care about your beef with Lou Holtz. Okay, whether this happened or whether it didn't against Michigan, some people say Ohio State ran the football up the middle continuously the way they did to prove that they were the tougher team. Who cares what Lou Holtz has said? Who cares what Lou Holtz is going to say? Ohio State needs to do what they do. They need to be true to themselves. That's just great life advice in general. Be who you are. And in this case, for Ohio State, it's how they should formulate an offensive game plan and really a game plan overall in this particular game. I think the longer that this game stays close, the more that favors the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. I think if Ohio State really wants to feel comfortable midway through this football game, they want to create some of those explosive plays. They want to turn a lot of these early drives into points because Notre Dame, now I know Notre Dame was down 10-0 at the half against Penn State, and they found a way to come back in that game. But this is a Notre Dame team that is not built to go end-to-end with the speed and the explosiveness of the Ohio State Buckeyes. I think Ohio State, of course, they want to play this game on the outside. They want to play this game on the perimeter. Now, Notre Dame, their secondary is pretty good. But if I'm Chip Kelly, I'm talking to Will Howard, an experienced quarterback who's seen pretty much it all when it comes to college football. And I want to give Will Howard the freedom and the opportunity. Hey, Mr. Howard, hello. If you see man coverage out there, and we're calling a different concept or a short concept or run game or whatever it is, I want to give you the power. When you see man coverage, let her rip, like Les Miles said all those years ago. If they dare to play man coverage against Jeremiah Smith, if they dare to play man coverage against Emeka Egbuka, if they dare to play man coverage against Carnell Tate, do it. Do it. We're going to go over the top. Ohio State is going to go over the top to create some of those explosive plays early on in this football game. You're feeling really good if you're a fan of the Scarlet and Grey, if you can create some of those big-time plays early on in the football game. I talked about if the longer this game stays closer, the more it favors Notre Dame. And you look at that first half against Penn State. I thought Notre Dame was actually able to do a decent job at keeping this game as close as it was, making key stops at key moments in time. I thought Penn State certainly left some money on the table in the first half. Ohio State, if you get a similar looking first half, you can't leave money on the table. You need to take advantage of it as well. If I'm Chip Kelly, because I think this game for Chip, for Ohio State offensively, is going to come down to a lot of the schematics. All right? Because it's depending what Notre Dame is able to do. If I'm Ohio State, I want to get Emeka Egbuka in motion. I want to get Jeremiah Smith in motion. I want to try to create as good of matchups as I can with those two guys specifically to create some of those big plays down the field, to play more on the perimeter so they can create some of those explosive plays. And now they force Notre Dame to maybe get out of their game plan and what they want to do, playing that ugly style of football. And boy, I put this in all caps with some exclamation points behind it in my show notes, where I talked about, hey, get Emeka Egbuka the ball in space, get Jeremiah Smith the ball in space, whether it's 2 times, 3 times, screen passes, I don't care what it is. Find a way to get Trevion Henderson an opening. When Trevion Henderson gets an opening, however he gets it, toss, sweep, run up the middle, screen pass, whatever it is, he usually finds a way to take that thing to the barn. If I'm Ohio State, if I'm Chip Kelly, I want to have a couple of plays in my back pocket where I know when I see a certain defense and I call something, I'm going to be able to get the ball to Trevion Henderson, and then he's going to be able to take it to the house. Like maybe a situation is where you see, hey, Notre Dame, hey, they might come after us. They might blitz in this particular situation. This is where we call the screen pass on a 3rd and 4 at midfield. We dump it off, and Trevion creates a big play down the field as well. You know, when I kind of look at this game overall as a whole, if it is a little bit of a closer game and a rock fight, I still think I might favor Ohio State because they have the ability to just make one big play at the key moment in time. They did it against Texas. They could certainly do it against the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Let's kind of flip over to the other side of the football and talk about defending Notre Dame in this one. You've got to force Riley Leonard's arm to beat you. Now, Riley Leonard is just a flat-out gamer. All right? He is just, when the moment is big, he rises up to the occasion. And Ohio State certainly needs to be prepared for that. I think, obviously, a big part of the Notre Dame offense is their run game. I think the number one key for Ohio State defensively is very obvious. They need to get a really good game out of their defensive line. They need to get a good game out of their linebackers. They need to slow down the run. They need to stop the run. Let's rewind back. I mentioned it before here early in the preview about that first half against Penn State. 0 points, 15 yards rushing on the ground. Now, the second half was a little bit of a different story. Why was it a different story for Notre Dame? Because they ran the football better. That's where everything centers around. Running the football well on first down, setting up short yardage, second and third down situations for Riley Leonard. This is not an offense that's going to, like when we talk about the deep shots and man-to-man coverage and Will Howard having the power and the opportunity to be able to do that and hit those plays over the top, Notre Dame is a little bit different, right? They're not going to be an offense that's going to hit a ton of those big plays over the top. This is not an offense where the receivers, are like the Bo Collins of the world, like the Jordan Faisons of the world, are going to be big-time one-on-one deep threats against Davison Igbinosun, against Denzel Burke. If I'm Ohio State, I feel very comfortable bringing more resources up to the line of scrimmage, allowing my corners to be good on an island, stopping this run game. And then of course, branching off of that is you need to contain Riley Leonard. Riley Leonard's legs and his ability to slither loose, whether it's in a QB scramble or a QB design run, is a big factor to this Notre Dame success that they have on the offensive side of the football. So if you can slow down the run game, if you can contain Riley Leonard's ability to run, which I think that comes down, and I kind of feel good about where Ohio State has the personnel they have against that type of offense that Notre Dame is going to throw at them. Because you need like athletic linebackers and you need a big athletic safety. Caleb Downs, anybody? Sonny Styles, anybody? The former safety who's moved over to the linebacker position. I think those two guys are going to have their eyes on Riley Leonard most of this evening, and I feel really good. And they've been like, Caleb Downs just get shot out of a 10-yard, 15-yard cannon, and he can look at that play late in the game on that toss sweep against Texas. I feel very confident that those two guys, and maybe a mix of others, maybe the Lathan Ransoms of the world and others, are going to have their eyes on Riley Leonard at a specific moment in time. And if you put the ball into the hands of Riley Leonard to be able to have to throw the ball down the field, that's where Jim Knowles. We talk about Will Howard and Chip Kelly letting her rip with the deep ball down the field. This is exactly, I think, where Jim Knowles certainly wants to live. If they're able to contain the run game, if they're able to keep Riley Leonard's legs in check, now you get to a 3rd and 7, you get to a 3rd and 8, and now let her rip, baby. Bring on the heat. Let JT Tuimoloau go to work. Let Jack Sawyer go to work. Let some of these other guys in some blitz packages come off the edge. Once again, what did I just say before? They feel, I assume they feel very confident about the matchups with their corners against Notre Dame's wide receivers, that they would not get burned if they bring 6 guys, if they bring 7 guys up to the line of scrimmage and try to get a lot of heat under Riley Leonard. You need to force Riley Leonard to be the ultimate hero in this game. Can he be the guy that's able to sit back there and throw the ball when the run game isn't working and to be able to beat them down the field? I don't think so. But I also said that, hey, I thought Drew Aller is a better quarterback matchup against Riley Leonard. And look how that turned out. I know Riley Leonard threw 2 picks in that game, but Riley Leonard still played pretty well in that game, in that semifinal game against the Penn State Nittany Lions, certainly as well. I feel like so much of this game really is I think a pretty sizable advantage for Ohio State in this game. It just comes down to execution, I think, in the end for the Scarlet and Grey in Atlanta. And it's all about ending the 10-year drought, especially since the COVID season. We know that 2020 season, Ohio State losing the national championship game to Clemson. Just a couple of years later, missed field goal at the stroke of midnight against Georgia in the semifinals in that game. I don't need to tell any Ohio State fan once or twice or any amount of times about the 4 consecutive losses to Michigan. This is an Ohio State program. Their national championship 10 years ago when they beat Oregon in the championship game that season. That was Urban Meyer, of course, when he was the head coach over there. A lot of people thought that would kind of lead to a lot more and maybe laying a similar groundwork and winning multiple championships like Urban Meyer was able to do at Florida. But it didn't happen, and there's been a lot of near misses. And this season, everybody talks about the $20 million roster. Ohio State spent a majority of that money, not to go out and get new players. It was never about going out and getting anybody for Ohio State. Hey, you went out and got Will Howard. That's certainly a great addition. But it was about a lot of these guys running it back. A lot of these guys have been through a lot of pain. A lot of these guys have come oh so close, but just one more opportunity. And I feel that's what they have. And then you look at this season as a whole. There were points in times for the Buckeyes where it looked a little bit bleak, because at the beginning of the season, myself included, I think a lot of people thought Ohio State is an utter machine. They are going to roll through everybody this year. And then you have the offensive line injuries, and then you have the performance against Nebraska, and then you have the loss on October 12th against the Oregon Ducks. Of course, you have the loss 13-10 at the end of the season against Michigan. But this is a team that always kept battling back and battling back and battling back. Now they just have one more battle on their hands, and yours truly has one more prediction on his hands. Let's put it up. I think the Ohio State Buckeyes are going to be the back-to-back Big Ten champions. I've got the Ohio State Buckeyes 27 and the Notre Dame Fighting Irish 17. I think Ohio State is just too talented. I think, based on the score that I have in this game, I think Notre Dame, I've been very impressed with the Irish this season. I think Notre Dame is going to throw everything at the wall, and they're going to throw their best out there. And I think that this is going to be a challenge for Ohio State in this particular game. But whether it's a rock fight or whether it's Ohio State doing what they want to do, I just think there's way too much talent on the field for Ohio State against this Notre Dame team for Ohio State to lose this national championship game. I said it before. I think they have the thing about Ohio State. They have guys that can strike in one play. Even when things haven't been going their way all game long, they have the ability to turn it around and completely flip it in just one single play. I'm not sure if Notre Dame has that ability. I've got the Buckeyes winning the national championship for the first time in 10 years. Those are my thoughts. What are your thoughts on this football game between the Irish and the Buckeyes? Leave all your thoughts, all your predictions in the comments below. I'm Big Ten Ted. We'll see you in the next one.
Thanks for watching Big Ten Ted, where it's all Big Ten all year long. Make sure to like the video to spread the word of Big Ten Ted to the masses, and subscribe to the channel for updates on Big Ten content that drops every day.